Welcome in to Big Hitters Only post-game reaction show. UNC defeats Minnesota. Let me pull the score here. 19-17 to move to 1-0. This is the post-game reaction show. We have producer Connor on for his first show. What's up, man?
I'm honored to be here. Honored to be considered a big hitter, guys, and thrilled to talk some UNC ball with you guys.
Love it. Connor's been doing a lot of the work behind the scenes, so we appreciate his help this first week. And for his second appearance, we have Mike Hardison. What's up, Mike?
I'm doing good, man. Got a dub. I'm happy.
Dude, what a game. It's like never easy, right? Never easy for UNC football. Back and forth game. Not much enthusiasm or excitement around Max Johnson. I think everybody wanted him benched. And then midway through the third quarter, he goes out, which looked like a pretty bad knee injury. In comes Connor Harrell. He wasn't much better from a quarterback standpoint. It really was a game where UNC leaned on Omarion Hampton. He has pulled the stats here. Omarion Hampton had 30 rushes for 129 yards, no touchdowns. And then the defense kind of stayed tough despite what happened in that last series. And then, dude, I think the player of the game, Noah Burnette, coming in and hitting a 29-yard field goal, a 52-yard bomb, a 42-yard field goal, and then the eventual game winner with 1:44 left, a 45-yard kick that kind of squeezed right down the middle. Initial thoughts, Mike. Like, what's going through your mind right now? UNC wins 19-17, 1-0, leaving Minnesota with a win.
Yeah, so I think if you told me before the night we were going to come out of Minnesota with a 2-point win, I would have been very happy about it. I think the manner in which it came is kind of disappointing. Let's be completely honest. Losing your starting quarterback, having your backup come in that was kind of competing for the job and only putting up, 35 yards passing is concerning.
4 attempts.
Yeah, it's concerning. I think it's like my honest to God initial reaction was, I really wish we had this defense last year. Looking at how the defensive line played, I was really happy with their production. Jahvaree Ritzie, 3 sacks. Kamen Rucker, sack. Amari Campbell, sack. We had some good defensive back play as well. Couple mistakes. Defense wasn't great. I think they were probably right around the average. But what have we been saying for the past several seasons? We will take an average defense given the offense we have. We finally get an average defense, and it looks like our offense is just taking a massive step back. Credit to Omarion Hampton. I mean, the guy put up 4.3 rushing yards with per carry with a offensive line that looked like it was put together the last minute. I mean, that the offensive line in general, what did we say coming into the podcast? We said that the biggest concern with Max Johnson was staying healthy and holding on to the ball too long. He held onto the ball too long and he didn't stay healthy. I'm not putting blame on him. I was watching the video of his parents in the stands reacting to his injury. It was brutal. I feel for him, but we kind of knew injury was a concern coming in. Offensive line wasn't as stout as we were hoping for. It was kind of what we expected based upon what we were talking about. And at the end of the day, we saw that time and time again. So look, I am ecstatic. We came out with that win. I literally had 0-1 marked in my little record book there until they missed it. I thought that kid was going to drill it right down the middle. I will happily take 1-0 leaving Minnesota, but I'm not super hopeful moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you don't feel good about the offense stepping away from this game. You feel good about the win. I think UNC stole that game. I don't think they really deserved to win it. I don't know if Minnesota really deserved to win it. It was 2 points. That was the exact spread. And when your quarterback goes down and the offense doesn't look anywhere close to maybe expectations, you're very happy to escape with the win. I didn't think Max looked good. He didn't do much. I mean, it was just the passes weren't sharp. The receivers weren't sharp. The offensive line was below average. I think the key was in the second half, Chip Lindsey was like, all right, we're going to run Omarion Hampton. He may get 2 yards. He may get 1 yard, but then he started getting 4 and 5 yards. They used him in the pass game, and he fell forward, and he wore down the Minnesota defense, and they kind of extended drives, and then UNC made field goals. I think UNC had 1 touchdown, and the rest were field goals, I believe, right? Yeah, the Mike.
4 field goals.
Yeah, and then so that was it. They got into scoring position, and then Noah Burnette was money from 52 yards, 45 yards.
Yeah,
that was the difference. And the defense did enough to hold Minnesota in check. And then I thought you were right, Mike. That last possession, the quarterback from Minnesota just kept throwing darts and moving the ball down the field, hitting the receivers, and got them in line for a pretty good field goal attempt. And he missed it. And so the UNC escaped with the win. I think there's a lot to unpack here. We'll get a little bit more to it in this show. Connor, as you step back, like, what are your initial thoughts right now, 15 minutes, 20 minutes from when the buzzer ended?
Well, the worst kept secret for this Carolina offense was that Omarion Hampton was going to take them as far as he could. He was the sole factor of this offense. And we saw it tonight, 30 carries. He only had over 30 carries one time last year, and that was against Duke in double overtime. So they ran him down. He had 11 in the first half, 19 in the second half. Still 130 yards on the ground, still put up numbers behind this O-line. So that was encouraging to see. I feel better about Omarion Hampton. Defensively, we talked about it in our text thread. I think the front seven did a good job, especially the D-line, getting pressured. They were in the backfield. They were hitting hard. They weren't missing tackles. They were getting guys on the ground, getting contact early. Secondary, I still have some questions. Tackling specifically. Feels like same song, different verse. Even when I was back in undergrad a couple of years ago, it's like, all right, secondary's there, one-on-one. How much faith do you have on them to make a tackle one-on-one? And I think tonight, I didn't get reaffirmed at all, in my opinion. Noah Burnette, MVP, 4 field goals, nails. Having nails guys, a kicker is a great plus there. And then finally, Max Johnson, first half, I didn't feel confident. He showed a couple flashes of athleticism, but man, when you got him out of the pocket and forced him to make a throw, it's like he was just, black holing down J.J. Jones on the sideline. First 2 third downs, and then the first 4th down, it was a force it to J.J. Jones on the sideline. Yeah. So he finally got in a little bit of rhythm in the second half and then got hurt, which we hate to see. I hope he's okay. And hopefully Connor Harrell gets more comfortable moving forward. That was my
I think a big part is UNC didn't show they have like an elite dynamic receiver. And I think we talked about that on the Mike podcast with Mike and Julian, maybe with Adam. Like there's not a go-to guy. And it seemed like they were trying to target JJ. I think JJ is an average receiver. I don't think he's an NFL guy. I think he can be a decent college receiver, but he's not like some all-ACC guy. I mean, where was Nate McCollum? Where were these freshmen and sophomores we heard about? Bryson Nesbitt had, I think, one big play. You didn't see John Copenhaver. And I think, UNC has obviously had success with great quarterbacks, but they also had NFL receivers every year with Tez Walker, Josh Downs, Diami Brown. And I didn't see that. So they got to figure out who's it going to be. And they're just going to have to lean on Omarion Hampton. That's obviously what they're doing here. Mike, you got something?
Yeah, I was just going to say this. So I think 2 points. I thought the tight end game, when we targeted them, was pretty solid, right? I think Jake Johnson had a great play. I think Bryson Nesbitt had a couple good targets as well. I think the overall picture and what I'm focusing on is we had 2 different quarterbacks, and what are the play calls that Chip Lindsey's calling in for them? Right? Like, I think we have to kind of focus on that. J.J. Jones didn't really impress me tonight, but also there wasn't a ton of opportunities to impress because there weren't a lot of deep throws down the field, right? And I think it's very telling that the offensive coordinator is calling plays that aren't really testing the quarterback or wide receiver. I think it was very concerning for me seeing screen after a short throw, after crossing route, like where they weren't really confident in their quarterbacks going deep down the field. And so if our offense coordinator, the coaches that know the quarterbacks best, are basically saying this is the best way we can get down the field, I think that's a giant red flag for the offense moving forward.
Yeah, it just shows you don't have a quarterback or a wide receiver who can create separation, or a quarterback who can throw that 20, 30-yard out or really expand the field vertically like Sam would do. Sam would try to hit that post route every single time. Drake could get it there. It's a difference maker when your quarterback can extend the field. It opens up the middle of the field for the slot receivers. And I don't know. I think it's pretty clear that Max wasn't that guy. And we didn't even Connor threw 4 passes, I think. He did have that nice play to JJ, which was huge on that field goal position. That was a nice little design play there. He's wide open. He hit that.
That only worked because he was only throwing short passes before that.
Yeah.
Have we as Carolina fans, as a program, just taken the last 5 years for granted at the quarterback position?
100%.
We had that surefire, no question mark position, the most important position on the field, locked down with Sam Howell and Drake May. And always the concern was defensive line, secondary, offensive line, weapons. Now all of a sudden we're back to square one with the quarterback, and we're clamoring like, wait a second, what? We finally have our defensive line. We finally getting the pressure we want. And now the quarterback position is the question mark. So it just sucks as a fan, as a former student. I sat there in the rain my freshman year of college at Carolina and watched Nathan Elliott every game, every Saturday, throwing picks, strip sack fumbles. I sat there the whole time. So I've got my battle scars there. I just hope Connor Harrell really turns it on the rest of the year. I really do, because it sucks to have that defense, that defensive front, that defensive pressure in game one at least, and then not have that quarterback play. So I hope we get some improvement on the offensive side.
Look, I didn't take them for granted. I knew that when we don't have a quarterback, this was going to happen. And it's very rare to have back-to-back stud quarterbacks. I mean, I thought Sam Howell was the best quarterback UNC had seen, and it was followed by Drake May. I didn't take that for granted. I knew it would be a struggle. I mean, there's a reason why. I mean, a fifth-year guy means you're not going to the NFL. And I mean, Connor Harrell didn't, compete last year for the job, obviously, and didn't show much in the bowl game. So it's going to be on Chip Lindsey to get Connor Harrell ready. Thank God they got Jacoby Criswell, because you might need a second quarterback now. I mean, it was awful to see what happened to Max Johnson. He moves to Chapel Hill. His family's there, given a shot to be a starter, and doesn't even make it past the third quarter. Anyway, as a show and as a team, you kind of got to move on. Let's get into the defense. I think that's one positive we can kind of take away and dive into some positions there. We'll get out of here. I need to tweet out that we're doing this live reaction, or not live reaction show, this post-game show, to kind of get
real quick
love.
before we go off the offense. Right. We saw what Connor Harrell is capable of in the bowl game, right? He's not Drake May, he's not Sam Howell, but I think he's better than he played tonight. I'll be interested to see how he plays when Chip Lindsey's actually calling the game for him. Right. So let's take tonight with a grain of salt. Coming in middle of the third quarter, when you've been sitting on the bench after a very competitive quarterback competition all the way through camp, kind of jarring to say the least. Let's see what he does next game. We're going to have some easier competition coming up. I'm not out on Connor Harrell's ability yet. I think that this might be a case of Chip Lindsey getting thrown into the mix, not knowing what to call for him, and trying to play the most conservative game possible to win the game. And they did. So credit to them.
Does that make you wonder, though, Mike or Ross, where it's like Mac was preaching all along, we're going to play two quarterbacks, we're prepping both guys, and all of a sudden Connor Harrell gets thrown in and they act like they don't know what to call for him?
Total bluff.
Smoke screen? Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Got to be, right, Ross?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'd actually really agree with you, Mike. We have 3 games now. I mean, Charlotte, Central, and JMU. I don't know JMU is a complete walkover, but there is a chance now. All right, if Connor's a guy, let's get in a good set of plays with him. Let's use his running. I was excited to see him run. He didn't run. Yeah. He's an athlete. He runs like a 4.4, 4.5. You put that with Omarion Hampton, you get more comfortable. Now every offensive lineman has at least one start now. And there's offensive line's a whole different thing. I think you become way more comfortable with just that live action, getting reps, getting chemistry with the guys next to you. I think they will be gradually improved each game, each rep. You get a whole another practice, get film. So I think it's the way the schedule's set up is nice now that you have to go to your backup, and you got the win. And Mac always talks about how you can coach them harder after a win because they have that in their pocket. You can kind of point out the things they did wrong. There's a lot of things that went wrong, but you have that win. You want to know. Which this is the game I thought that would define the season in terms of their schedule. Now, despite what we saw, I think 8 wins is possible. Now, at halftime, I was thinking 6 or 7, but now when you all right, we beat Minnesota. Now it's all right, we can find 6, 7 wins there. We'll see. But the offense
you could very well end up with 4 without doing much. So
I was praying for the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Just please get us to 6 wins.
All right, let's move to defense here. Pulling off this thing, we got a little banner here. We're recording on StreamYard, so let's talk defense. All right, Mike kind of previewed it. I mean, I thought Jahvaree Ritzie, for the first time in his career, he was a huge recruit. He was 4-star, top 40 guy in the nation, which is crazy. Right down the road in Kernersville, North Carolina. He was a beast. He was all over the field, all over the backfield. I think 3 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks. He was talking shit to the other team at the end there, talking about 3 sacks. I mean, that's the type of play you want. You want your stud interior defensive lineman to harass the quarterback, to push the pile, and to get a sack or 2. That chase down sack, I tweeted it out. I haven't seen a pure chase down sack from a defensive lineman in a long time. I thought Travis Shaw made some plays, big fumble recovery that was huge. I thought the linebackers were not bad. I missed tackle here and there, but I was not expecting much. But Power Echols had a couple big plays. Mari Campbell had some big plays. I think the safety play was a little concerning. And I thought Marcus Allen made some mistakes. I thought Huzzy was awesome, but Marcus Allen's the one that stood out to me. Mike, what did you see from the defense? What stood out? What concerns you?
I think you really have to highlight the entire defensive line, right? So, like, it's not just Jahvaree Ritzie. It's not just Karen Rucker. Amari Campbell had an excellent game. Des Evans didn't do much, but we were seeing, we were chatting back and forth. Like, he's being held on multiple plays, right? So, like, this is a guy that was creating pressure, and you work as a unit in that situation. So you may not get the credit for the sack, but it's the combined pressure that you're putting on the quarterback that eventually leads to it. So I think the defensive line, like, it might just be a blip, right? We saw 9 sacks against South Carolina. I think we're all a little gun shy about like praising a defensive line before we actually see them sustain that effort. But I think in terms of what we were hoping to see, we saw a little bit of it tonight. We saw some of your stud recruits starting to perform at the level that we thought they would. I agree with you. I thought Power Echols played a pretty good game tonight. I thought linebackers wasn't really concerning. Safety play wasn't great. Marcus Allen, I thought had a couple mistakes. He also had a couple good plays, I thought. Caleb Cost, very athletic. I think there's huge upside there. Had a couple mistakes tonight. So for me, the defense was, I'll put it this way. If you told me this is the defense year one, Mac Brown, I would have been like, all right, cool. We're trending back to where Mac Brown had his defenses where they need to be. I think like where we are is kind of concerning, but first game under Jeff Collins, first game, new defense coordinator, hopefully kind of turn the page. I'm optimistic. I'm more optimistic than I was last year against South Carolina because we didn't see any fundamental process changes with South Carolina. We just felt like, oh, these guys got it, and we didn't really see anything different. Tonight looked a little bit different. We were seeing some different pressures. We were seeing some unique blitzes, I thought. I think there's a higher upside for this defensive line than there has in the past. And so a little bit higher on them as a defensive unit than I have been for years prior.
Yeah, I think there was some in the defensive secondary an issue with tackling, like just wrap up and take it down. There's a one play where like
Nick Lane missed an awful tackle that was just it was cringeworthy.
It was like he went for the I think people go for the fumble, the forced fumble.
No, don't.
Like it's like because it's
situational awareness. Situational awareness.
It's college football, man. It's like NFL is so different. NFL is like if you touch the guy's going down. I feel like in college, there's so many missed tackles. It's so frustrating as a fan because you're there, you're wrapped up. Like take them down, and it's just that's what stood out to me. You got to fix the missed tackles. I'm sure that'll be a big talking point. But defensive line, bringing different types of pass rushes and blitzes. I think they brought like safety a couple times, or a corner or safety. Linebackers got in on it, and then just winning your one-on-ones. I thought Cam Rucker was all over the place too. Like he was in on a lot of the plays that Ritzie was in. Connor, what'd you see on defense? Was a player or two that stood out to you? Anything different from what Mike said?
I actually want to push back a little bit on what you guys said. Because Mike, you're saying you're gunshot to pull the trigger. I agree with that. I want to hit on that because how much credit do we give to the defense when Carolina had the ball in offense for 13 and a half minutes in the third quarter? They were barely on the field. Minnesota ran 4 offensive plays in that third quarter. Nice. And the second thing is Max Brosmer, New Hampshire guy from the FCS, he's not the best power 4 quarterback they're going to see this year. He's probably bottom of the totem pole in this schedule, save, like JMU, some of these games we're about to see coming up. How much credit are we giving the defense? What are they going to do against a Florida State or an NC State or a middle of the road ACC team like a Duke or a Georgia Tech? Well. Yeah, exactly. Backup running back as well with Taylor being out. I don't know. I was encouraged by the pressure because we haven't seen this in the past few years. I was encouraged by the tackling from the defensive front 7 especially, but man, I'm going to pump the brakes just a little bit just because of the level of quarterback we just played and the fact that they were barely on the field in the second half.
I think that's completely fair. I think that there is an argument to be made that this was like a below average level of competition that we will expect to see, right?
And they still probably should have lost. It's crazy.
Yeah, we still basically lost. Well, not because of the defense though, right? Like let's be completely honest. Like we almost lost that game because our offense could not do anything. The only counterpoint I'll have to that, because I think you bring up great points, is that I think coming into this game, we knew that Minnesota had the better offensive line, and I think we assumed they had a better defensive line as well. We kind of came into it thinking that they were going to beat us in the trenches, right? And I would make the argument they did not beat us in the trenches on the offensive line. The Minnesota defensive line was a little better than our offensive line, but I think our defensive line, which has been questioned before, kind of held their own against their offensive line. But yeah, I think tonight is more of a argument about would you rather have your skill position players be good, or would you rather have your line position players be good? And tonight, Carolina's skill position players won it by the skin of their teeth, right? It's Omarion Hampton won this game for us tonight. Just pure and simple. Without Omarion Hampton,
and Noah Burnette.
Noah Burnette. Yeah, Noah Burnette crushed it, right? But
Nails.
we're not even in position to get him in field goal range without Omarion Hampton. And you take one of our best, you take one player away from our team, and we lose that game probably 17-3.
Yeah, that's why you pay a player like Omarion Hampton to stay at UNC. I mean, he was paid to stay.
We paid him, but I know we paid him, but he was offered
not
more.
enough. Yeah.
I mean, he wanted to stay, but we had to pay something. I think a big part with this defense and the team in total is like the confidence of winning on the road in a hostile environment in game one. I think will do wonders. Like they've had their toughest game. It's gonna be easier. Next 3 games gonna be easier. I think even at
till November.
Duke will be easier because I mean Big Ten environment, first game, the jitters are out of the way, and you escape with a 2-point win. I mean, you saw face adversity on both sides on special teams. Quarterback went out, your leader went out. You had to switch things on the fly, and they did win. I mean, it was
there's a great narrative to build out of this.
Yeah, of course.
If you're Mac Brown, who is like the guy that tells stories, the guy that like kind of brings everything together, this is a great story you can tell your team. For sure.
I'm not sure if I have any more. I think Noah Burnette should be they have the national awards. I think he should be kicker of the week. That's like an SID. You want to push for your players to get that. I think he should be kicker of the week, which is pretty cool. Omarion Hampton, if he'd gotten a touchdown, I think he'd be a lock for probably ACC running back of the week. We'll see that. Trying to think if we cut anything else, any other players, scheme, anything else, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach. I mean, I think it was pretty decently.
Special teams play, I think, deserves a little bit of credit there. I think our in general, our punt return coverage wasn't great, but our punt team was pretty solid. I think we pinned them in pretty decent position for ourselves a couple times. I think that's one thing that gets overlooked. And then one minor shout out that's not related to our team. We never get the refs credit ever. And we always spotlight refs when they're bad. I thought the refs were excellent tonight.
Yeah. Good point.
Every flag, I was like, oh yeah, that's a flag. That's a hold. Yeah. That's a PI. Hey, how about Tom McGinnis, the Australian punter? He was the holder on every single kick, and I was nervous as heck. It's like this dude's been playing football for a year, 2 years, and he is holding. It's such a technical job to hold that, to get the laces out. All the eyes are on you, and every hold looked very smooth. And Noah Burnette, swag city, just kicking it through with the chain.
Mean mugging the camera every time.
Yeah, he's a kind of a little guy. Like, dude, kudos to him. That's all I got.
Tomahawk chop to come out like Nick Weiler did 2 years ago. Like, come on.
That's right. Yeah.
When you hit that 52-yarder, I was waiting for it.
Yeah, maybe a little discount double check. Come on. I don't know.
Yeah. You don't see that very often in college football. Anything else, Connor, from you?
Moving forward, I just wanted to ask you guys this. If you can give me 1 or 2 things you're looking for this team to improve on next week, I want to hear your guys' answers to that.
Quarterback play and passing the ball vertically forward, get some good passing plays to get other wide receivers involved. That'd be number 1. And then we already said this, but curtailing the offense to what Connor Hale's strengths are, which involves running. I think you have to run the quarterback. I think college, it's such a benefit to run the quarterback. It makes the defense get on their toes. It forces, defensive backs up. I think Sam could run, Drake could run. Having a running quarterback in college is critical. So I want to see those 3 things from the offense next year. A little bit more offense next week, a little more vertical passing if possible, running Connor Harrell, and then a game plan. Let's get a game plan, plays that he is comfortable with, and see how that looks against a lesser opponent in Charlotte. Mike?
2 things. I would like to see better blocking across the board. I think run blocking in particular. I think most of the running that we had, the big yardage plays, were from Omarion Hampton just breaking tackles. I would like to see a little bit better. And I think that opens up Connor Harrell to scramble a little bit more, which if you can bring Connor Harrell's inherent scramble ability into the offense, it's going to be very difficult to stop him. And that's going to probably get us above that 8-win threshold, in my opinion. Second thing, I'd like to see a little bit better secondary play. I think if you can start kind of knocking. I didn't see a lot of deflections tonight. Brosmer wasn't passing a ton. I would like to see the secondary compete against a quarterback that's got to throw the ball a little bit more. I like to see how they'd respond. I think if you can put like the improved, from what we've seen from game one, defensive line play together with a little bit better, secondary play, the defense can definitely improve as a whole over the course of the season. It is pretty apparent that if this team is going to be successful, it's good because they're more of a defensive team than they are offensive, which is very weird to say about Carolina. I don't think any of us would have pegged that, but here we are. So if the defense can continue to improve and the offense can just take a minor step forward, this is probably a team that can get to that 7-8 win threshold that we have talked about forever. Yeah, the Mac Brown standard.
That's right.
So we'll see if we can get there.
It's awesome to see some sacks, see some pressure, see some backfield.
5 sacks tonight.
Yeah, TFLs, pressure, getting in the quarterback's face. That was good to see. Good to see Jahvaree Ritzie have probably his best game of his career. Kamen Ruckert kind of was steady. And then Travis Shaw played a lot. I'm going to look at a big thing. And Inside Carolina, shout out my former employee. They do a great job with PFF snaps the day after. I love to look at that. It's a premium subscription thing. But it's always cool to see kind of who plays the most. That's a teller for who the coaches like. Which defensive linemen gets the majority of snaps, which wide receivers get the majority of snaps. So I'll look at that tomorrow morning. All right, we're going to end here. It is 1:09. The schedule for next week, we have a little issue because Bryn Renner can't do the pod anymore.
Tough
because of, I think it's a Tar Heel Sports Network thing. I knew it was going to potentially happen. So I'm going to see what we're going to do for Monday. This show will come out Friday morning. Let's do it right now. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll have a show in your feeds Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning. I have a couple surprise guests. I'm hoping that they come through involved around Charlotte, but I won't say them. And then that'll probably be it. 2 shows next week. And then we'll do a reaction pod probably Sunday morning. I'm trying to think where I'll be Saturday. We could do it. Saturday. No, probably Sunday morning. Sunday morning, because I'm going to be actually in Charlotte for the Tennessee game. Anyway, we'll get to that. But expect 2 shows this week and then a reaction show on Sunday morning after UNC's game versus Charlotte. All right, guys. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all listening. Shout out to Connor behind the scenes, Garrett behind the scenes, Colby and Siobhan. Thanks, Mike, for staying up. It's not easy at our age. 1:10 a.m. It's going to be a rough morning. Big old cup of coffee tomorrow morning.
All right, it's fine.
It's Friday.
It was fun. And it's much better when you win, right? It
1-0.
feels a lot better. All right, see you guys.